Okay, can anybody hear me now? Check, check, 1, 2, check, check. Anybody? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Awesome. Okay, let me resend this back to him and let him know he can try back on his laptop. Must have been an issue with mine. Hate when that happens. Okay, so we'll wait for him to get up and going. How's everybody doing tonight? Did you guys have a good weekend, hopefully? Put in the comments if you did anything fun this weekend. Always love to live vicariously through others, you know. Oh, but I did get a new toy this weekend, too. That was pretty exciting. Not a thumb up, but I can hear you. Okay, Tennessee Goddess, thank you very much. Let's see. There we go. So let's go ahead and I am going to get this party started here. Okay, so to start, I want to welcome my guest this evening. His name is Barry Apland, and he is a Marine veteran. And so he hopefully can hear me. If he can hear me, nod. All right, I got a thumbs up. So everybody, please welcome my guest tonight, Barry Apland, to the stage.
Hey,
Barry, how's it going?
good.
Good. So it turns out I think it was my phone that was, or my
Oh,
headset that was having issues. So sorry about that. I didn't realize nobody in the comments could hear me either. uh, so I was just telling everybody I got a new toy this weekend, and so it is the Springfield Resolve. So for those of you out there who have been on Ivan's channel, and he did a little preview of it for us. That was my early Christmas present from Jason. So got that yesterday. So excited to go out and get that shot and see what it can do. Have you Barry? Are you a gun person at all?
yeah, a little bit. I've got a few. I'm not. I'd like to have a few more, but what gun owner doesn't want to have a few more? Uh,
Right. There's no
I,
such thing as too many.
I'm a Springfield fan. I've had more of those than I've had anything else actually. So I don't know. I'm not familiar with that one. The one that you have, I'll have to look it up and see what that's all about. But I've got a bike carry one that I use. It's the Hellcat. When they first came out, I got one of those. So I don't have the fancy Pro and all the other sights and all that stuff. It's just a regular little Hellcat, but it's kind of cool.
That works. That's what it's all about is, just having something that you feel comfortable using. And this one it is a rifle. Well, it's 9 mil is what it is, but it looks like a rifle, I guess. It's looks kind of like an AR platform, but it's super light. I really like that.
I,
Jason Macaron, hello, welcome to the show. Thank you for showing up. Let's see. So, Jason Hagstrom, my husband, says it's the Smith and Wesson response. That's what it is. Thank you. Uh, we have Tennessee Goddess says welcome to you.
Thank you.
Jim says thank you for your service, Barry. Misty, welcome, Barry. Killian Shelton, that's our oldest kid. He says raw. Yes, Tennessee Goddess. It was the Smith and Wesson response. That's what we got. Uh, Jason Macaron says he loves the Hellcat.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, that's I'm still working on the aim and accuracy of it, but it's good. I don't go to the range as often as I'd like, just because it's ammo's a little expensive, but it's fun.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. But
usually
it's always,
usually take somebody with me that hasn't shot before, and or some just something, just a kind of good experience. So
yeah, that's really nice. So, are you ready for this?
I
You
think
know,
so. I don't. Yeah, I just got off work a little bit ago. I just left Toyota probably uh, less than a half an hour ago. I literally delivered a car and said I got to go. I got to get home and do this. And I live like 5 minutes away, so it
oh,
worked.
that's really convenient.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I guess to start, why don't you tell us a little bit about your life prior to the military, like childhood and things
Sure.
like that?
Pretty normal. I mean, I grew up in the Midwest. I was from Iowa. Lived in a little town. Um, a little farming community. I wasn't a farm kid. My fiance reminds me of that all the time. I was a city guy. So even though it's small town, but um, so I grew up around a lot of farmers, small community. Played sports. I wasn't a big guy. I was probably wrestling was my big sport, and I wrestled from anywhere from 112 to my freshman year to 132. So I wasn't a big guy. Hit a late growth spurt, I guess. Um, got out of high school, went to college for a couple of years, and got an associate's degree. Went to a different school. Moved to Chicago from Iowa, big city, and
Oh, wow. What took
uh,
you to Iowa or
well,
Chicago?
my folks moved when I was in college. They moved out there, um, and I decided to just go out there and go to school and try it. And then after 2 years of going to college there, so I went to college for 4 years. I decided that I'd had enough and needed a break. So Marine Corps called my name, and away I went. So
Wow.
I took a 4 year break from college to be a Marine, and yeah, so took me various places, but
Well,
I was a swimmer. I played sports. I was a lifeguard. I had a pretty normal upbringing. Just a lot of friends and good social life. It was a lot of fun. I just when I moved to the Chicago area, I guess it was time to do something different. I was time to challenge myself a little bit and get out of the rut. So
yeah.
yeah.
Well, so when you joined the military, what did your folks think?
Uh, Funny story. So it actually was April 1st, 1990. And I was on my way home, and I kind of took a different road than I normally take because of traffic. And it was by the recruiter's office. And I just stopped and I went in and talked to, it didn't happen overnight, but I talked to a Marine recruiter and I talked to an Army recruiter. And I got home and I called my mom she was at work still. And said, "Hey, Mom, I'm joining the military." And she laughed. She goes, "Yeah, April Fools." And I'm like, "No, I'm serious. I'm really going to do this." And it took me a couple more visits to make sure that was what I wanted to do. But that was April 1st, and I left for boot camp June 11th, 10th or 11th, something like that.
Wow.
So it was pretty quick. So
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a quick
uh,
turnaround.
yeah, I finished up that semester. I was still in school, so I finished up that semester. And I think I got done with finals, whatever, probably first or second week of May, something like that, 10th, 11th, I guess, something. And and I had about a month to kind of mentally prepare myself. So was not in shape. A buddy of mine was that I worked with as a lifeguard was he was in the Army. He was the Army Reserves, and so he took me out running a few times and tried to get me in shape a little bit. And at that point, you're going to get what you get. So I just but I made an effort to try to get in shape. But I played sports, so I had a little bit of muscle memory going that I was I needed to just clean my system out a little bit and eat a little healthier, and I was fine. So
Well, that's good. So when you got into boot camp, was it anything that you expected?
I really didn't know what to expect. I really didn't. I mean, I'd heard some stories and I watched a couple little videos or something, that they had, and I'm like, okay, I can do this. It's not a big deal. So I really was just kind of blind to it. I had no idea at all. I just I'm just going to go do it, and it wasn't terrible. So
What was your favorite part of boot camp? Did you have a favorite
uh,
area that you guys learned on or were taught?
the I was West Coast, so it's a little different there, I think, than the East Coast guys. East Coast guys, they're all at whatever the Lejeune area. They're all
Paris Island.
Paris Island. There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you. I can't believe it. We battle with those guys all the time. Anyway, the West Coast, you do the first phase, which is the first month. 4 weeks are in San Diego at the MCRD in San Diego, right by the airport. Second month is at Pendleton, 30 miles north, 30, 40 miles north or something at there at Ensign Range. And there's, and then the last phase, you come back to San Diego. So most of us, I think the best for me was when we went to Pendleton, when we went up there, because it was, you're out in the field, you're doing weapons training, you're doing it was more outdoor stuff. It wasn't like just march and PT, and there were things that you were learning that most of us had never experienced before. So
Yeah.
Looking back, that's probably was probably the most the best part, I think. Yeah.
So did you? I'm assuming you had to go through so our middle son is a Marine graduated boot, and his favorite part was the gas chamber.
I didn't really have any problem with it at all. And it was kind of funny because I don't know. Going through that, I wouldn't say it was my favorite part, but it didn't bother me like it did some people. I just kind of laughed it off. But the funny thing is that later, so you go through, they give you these masks, they don't seal, and it really is just kind of it's just to kind of mess with people. But I actually, a couple of years later, went through NBC school, which is nuclear biological chemical. So
Oh wow.
I went to, it was, like a 2B class or something. It wasn't a huge thing, but
Okay.
we had to train everybody in our units, like how to decontaminate your suit if you're in a chemical environment, and you had to do all, you had to be able to, you had to know it well enough to teach other people. So I was, kind of like a trainer. It was kind of like a trainer class. So anyway, with that, we had to go through the gas chamber, and the same gas chamber most of us, they used in boot camp, same style. And the gas mask worked. So you went in, and, you couldn't, the smoke didn't bother you. There was, the filters worked. They were just like they're supposed to. And then you had to take your mask off, and then you had to put it back on to clear it. And again, your mask worked. And if you cleared it right, then you didn't have any problems. So the whole thing at boot camp was just crappy masks and filters that didn't work, and just, whatever. So, but
Yeah.
a lot of people, was fun. You go out there, your eyes burn, your nose runs, clear snot, and that's it. And it's over in 20 minutes. So
Yeah. Christine White says you definitely don't have allergies afterwards. I don't know about that, but
it'll clear you out. That's for sure.
at least for the time being, for the moment. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just seeing some of the videos, just the snot and mucus just hanging off of these guys and gals.
Trick is to don't touch your face and walk into the wind and it goes away pretty quick. So.
Nice. Well, there you go. So anybody looking to maybe join the military and you've got to face that gas chamber, there's a tip for you.
Yeah.
Let's see. What else do we got? Ron Wayne, thank you for joining today. Um, so what was it like? Did you get many letters, or did you write many letters back home?
Yeah, I've quite a few. I think almost every day. I mean, that was the the one kind of therapy time you'd get at the end of the day. You'd get oh, I don't remember. Probably an hour or less. It's probably less than an hour, but before rack time, you had a little bit of time to just to write letters, and it was encouraged. I mean, they encouraged people to write, and I don't know. I wrote probably almost every day, and if not, and I wrote my mom and a few other people, and I got a fair amount of correspondence back from there. My mom, I remember there was some cartoon that was from the newspaper, Shoe. I don't know if you remember Shoe. They don't, it's not anymore, but it's the one with the birds. Anyway,
Mm-mm.
there was a series during that when I was at boot camp that was around military, and it just so happened that was she was cutting those out of the paper every day and sending them to me, and I just it was just kind of weird, just being disconnected from everybody. I got a couple phone calls. Usually, I think we got one when we first got there. I got a call and kind of say, hey, we're here, and so on, and 30 seconds, a minute, or something like that. It wasn't a long time. And then I think maybe one other time towards the end, it's kind of third phase or something, that was
Yeah.
more for a lot of guys that were trying to schedule family coming to visit for graduation and those kind of things. So
Picking them up and
yeah,
transportation and
well, and, I mean, they had to just show up. We couldn't do anything with that, but it just, who's coming, who's not coming, and those kind of things. So I didn't have anybody come when I was done there. Everybody was in Chicago, so it was just me. So it was okay.
yeah.
But
Yeah, I know it's tough. I know we took the drive from Tennessee to South Carolina,
yeah,
and it was definitely long.
yeah.
I mean, a very long drive, and so worth it though. You know, for him and for us, and I'm just
Yeah,
happy we got the opportunity. But
I would have been happy if somebody, from my family would have been able to make it, but just I wasn't that. I did. It was okay. I did it for me, and I made it through, and that was the.
that's what
I
matters.
wasn't worried. I was never worried about it. I was probably not cocky, but I wasn't concerned that when I got through. I was kind of mad the first part, because I was, like I said, I wasn't in great shape, so I I was a little over the. I'd say I was a little over what they considered acceptable for their height weight standard.
Mm.
So they pretty much starved me my first month. I lost probably 35 pounds
Oh
in the
my, that's a lot.
all that. Yeah, I went in, I was about 190, 195, something like that. And I when I graduated, or short, wasn't that long after, I was 160. So I got down. I mean, that's the leanest I was. I think it was about 160. And
Wow.
I haven't been back there since. So it's been.
Yeah, I remember those days when, I was very thin. It's not to say I
Well,
haven't tried to get there, but it
I
isn't going
got
to happen.
one other time. I got close one other time when I was in. I had to do some training. I got in really good shape, but yeah. So it wasn't that bad. I saw a lot of guys not make it. Um, that failed, either physically just couldn't do it, or had accidents, or sprained an ankle, sprained a knee, or something that
Yeah.
physically couldn't get it done. I had one kid that he was had a mental breakdown, and I had to run and get a drill instructor, because they thought he was going to try to hurt himself bad. And I fortunately was there and kind of stopped it. I don't know if he was intended to or if he was just trying to get out. It could have been that too. But it wasn't. I mean, we started out with probably 115 guys, and I think when we graduated, there was probably about 80. So
Well,
yeah.
yeah.
And some of them, went to other units. They got, medical, and they went and picked up somewhere else. There were some guys that were reservists that that didn't have to go all the way through. They cut a couple little things out for those guys because they had to get back to school or whatever, which was fine. So,
Yeah.
but
So, where did you go for okay, let me make sure I get, is it SOI?
uh, what do they call it back
Your
then?
training. Is it MCT?
Yeah, so I didn't. SOI is the School of Infantry. So between that, it was trying to think of what it's called. It was the weapons training part of it. It's before. It's basically before you go to your the Navy. They call it A school. I can't remember what they call it. It's been so long.
Well, okay.
But,
So when you
so
got out of boot camp, were you infantry? Did you go in as infantry?
I was not. I was an amtracker. So amphibious assault. So we drove these. The way I describe it, if you ever see, is it Jurassic Park 3, I think,
Mm-hmm.
or at the end, the Marines land and these tank things roll up on the beach. If anybody, anyway, that's what I drove.
Wow.
So they splash off the back of a ship. They go through the water, and then we hit the beach and go. So it was, yeah. But there's a weapons kind of training stuff that you do between boot camp and that school, and I don't know, it's a month. It's about a month, and that also was at Pendleton. So that wasn't as bad because you Monday through Friday, we were training, and then you basically had the weekends off. So
Okay.
you could go into town, or you could drink, or what, you could dress in civilian clothes, and so it was a little bit more relaxed. And that was about a month, I guess. And then from there, you reported to your whatever school. So if your infantry guys went to SOI, the School of Infantry, I went to the Amtrak school, which also was at Pendleton, so just down the road from the rest of the training that we did.
That makes it nice.
Everybody went wherever, admin guys went to wherever they went, and they got dispersed from there. So I spent 3.5 of my 4 years probably outside of the 2 months in San Diego, I guess, at boot camp, 2 of the 3 months down there. I spent 3.5 of my 4 years in Pendleton. I was pretty much there living on the beach the whole time.
Wow. And
Yeah.
so you like Pendleton? Did you like it there?
I did. It was I was on a good part of the base. That some of the parts were a little bit more remote that, we trained at, that would just, if you were out there, there wasn't anything to do. You might have had a PX or something, but, you'd have to drive 20 minutes to get anywhere, to get anything. And the part of the base I was on, I was right by the main gate. Can't stand it to eat it now. I'll never eat it again, but there was a Burger King right across the street. There was a PX right across the street from that. So we didn't, there was an E Club that was one of the biggest bars in Southern California. It was right down the street from us, about 3 blocks. So there was no reason to really go very far. And we worked right on the beach. I mean, I could walk at lunchtime. I could walk across the street and dip my toes in the ocean. So.
Wow. Well, nothing wrong with that.
No.
So you were never deployed then?
I did. So I went to Okinawa.
Okay.
I spent a little bit of time in Kuwait. It wasn't very long, and it was after I was scheduled to go over in like May of '91.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of supposed to be that second wave relief, and they went in and took care of business, and they started sending guys home in March, April, and I just happened to get attached to a group that just came back. So those guys didn't deploy. They didn't. It's not a very exciting topic, but yeah, I missed out. So I had friends of mine that were deployed from the start of the Gulf till the end of it. They were there from day one till the final day when they brought everybody back. Same guy was a roommate of mine for a couple of years. He ended up going to Somalia, and
Oh,
that was not a fun one for a lot of guys. And when that one happened, I was scheduled to go to Okinawa, so I spent 6 months in Okinawa while those guys were doing that. So I've fortunate to have a window that I just lucky or unlucky, however you want to look at it, I guess.
right.
I didn't have to do that. So I wish
Right.
that I would have been able to a little bit more in hindsight. The 30 years later, it's like, wonder what if. But at the time, as a early 20s guy, it was like if they would have asked me to go, I told me to go, I would have gone with willingly. And
Yeah.
but I I was called to do other things, I guess, is kind of how I look at it. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, so you returned then in the stateside, and you were retiring what year from the
So
Ranger?
I was in from 90 to 94, and I was in Okinawa from kind of the summer into the fall of 93. So
Okay.
when I got back, I mean, I had about, I don't know, 6 8 months left. So I was just more, it's what military and short timer. I can't. I don't have enough time left to deploy. I
Right.
just I just worked and helped train new guys and deploy, getting ready for their next deployment, and just I was a crew chief for most of the time on the one of the communications vehicles. That was kind of my specialty. um, and I knew I was going away, so I just kind of stepped down from that and just trained the new guy. I'm like, you're the crew chief. It's your vehicle now. I'm your crewman. Just ask me questions. And nobody nobody wanted to be on the communications vehicle
Really?
because no, because that's where all the officers were, and nobody
Ah,
wanted.
well, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I was comfortable there because I'd been to college and I wasn't intimidated by a lot of guys. The officers, they're like, I'm like, you put your pants on one leg at a time, just like me, sir. So I'm going to
Yep.
get where you got to go safe, and I'm the one that's going to tell you how to use the radio. So be nice. And they were.
Which is always a plus. Makes your job a little easier.
I, I had more knowledge than they did, and they knew it. So I was respectful, but I never had any problems with them. So, but anyway, nobody else wanted to be on that vehicle because it didn't have the big turret with all the big guns on it. I had 15 radios that I had to maintain, and nobody else wanted to do that. And I just, I had little guns and a lot of radios, so that's okay.
So what was it like actually being on the water in an amphibious vehicle?
It freaked a lot of people out. I was a water guy growing up, so I spent time
Yeah,
as
you
a lifeguard and
swam and
yeah. So it didn't really bother me. There was a lot of guys that a lot of the infantry guys that we had with us. You wouldn't think they'd join the Marines if you didn't know how to swim, but there's a lot of guys that don't know how to swim. They're really scared to be in the water, and these things aren't watertight. They just you just pump out more water than comes in, and they float. So it was a little freaky. I had a couple times where I was a little shaken up with didn't know if we were going to make it, but um, you
what
know
happened?
we were on. So when we left, I was in Okinawa, and we left to on a float. So we went on a. I was on the island for 2 months. We were on the ship for 2 months, and then the last 2 months we were back in Okinawa. So on the 2 months we were on the ship, we hit several ports, and we were doing a ship transfer off the coast of Australia. And when they wouldn't, for whatever reason, they didn't want us to do it in their waters. We had to do it in international waters, which is like 175 miles out or something like that. I don't know. It was a ways out. We were basically in the open ocean. We weren't close to the shore. These vehicles are made for kind of closer to shore stuff.
Yeah.
They're not like open water vessels. They're not. So we were in one ship and had to transfer to another one. We had to go because one ship was going to Australia and the other one was going somewhere else. So we had to switch. So we're in the middle. I don't know if anybody's been in the Pacific Ocean. It can be just calm. Looks like you're, just kind of cruising around, Percy Priest Lake and no big deal. And then winds change, and in a minute and a half, you're in 20-foot seas. So that's what happened. So the seas changed, and we're right in the middle of going from one ship to the other. And I all of a sudden can't see the ship. I was driving because my crewman was not as experienced as I was. So I said, I'm going to do the drive. I'm going to do it. So I'm behind the wheel and navigating this thing. And we were at the bottom of the trough of the wave, and I can't see the ship. And then I come up and I can see at the top, I can see the ship, and it's just waves like this. So ships never stop. So
Right.
they have to keep moving. So these things are probably going through as slow as they can go, maybe 3 or 4 knots, something. I mean,
Oh,
as
wow.
slow as they can go. Well, our vehicles at top speed go like 8. So in those seas, I'm looking at 1, 2, maybe 3 pushing it, but the ship's pulling away from me. So I see it at the top of the wave. I see it get smaller. And the next time I go down, and it's smaller and smaller. And so finally, I just had to, I don't know, I just found it in me somehow, got lucky. And I had probably 10 guys in the back. I had 10 infantry guys with me. So it wasn't like it was me and my crew that could just jump. I had 10, 15 guys in the back that I'm responsible for these guys to get them from A to B. So
Were they back there vomiting? I'd
some
be
of them were,
vomiting.
yep.
Yeah, that would be me.
Yep. That happened all the time. So,
Ugh.
so anyway, that was really the only time that I got, it was a little bit, and I was mad. I remember being so mad when I got I finally got him on ship. Obviously I'm here to tell the tale, but I got on the ship, and I was like, where's that captain? Hindsight, there's nothing he could have done. He was going as slow as he could. And, I was literally the last vehicle, because somebody else had broke down, and I was going to rescue them. And then their vehicle came back online, and I was literally the last vehicle to pull on the ship. So it was a little crazy. That was.
And so was this your vehicle then loading into this ship?
Yeah. So you
Okay.
drive out the back of the ship,
Mhm.
and there's a ramp comes down. You just drive off the back into the water. And then when we went on the other ship, they lower their ramp, and we just drive right up in the back of the other ship. So.
Got it. The little ones.
Yeah. My little buddy
Um,
just checking on me. So anyway, that was really the one time that I was like, oh my God, I'm not gonna. And on a serious note, this was just a few years ago. We used to that vehicle's no longer in operation. They've decommissioned it within the last probably year or two. It's been fairly recent that vehicle, and it went back to Vietnam time. I mean, it went back to the 70s. It's been a long time. It was dated. It was time for it to go. But a few years ago, there was people Marines doing an operation off the same one I did all the time, San Clemente Island off the coast of California, and something failed, and it went down in like 200 feet of water, and there was not everybody made it out. So there was a few Navy, a couple Marines, some of the crew made
yeah.
it out, but not all of them. So it was. I mean, it was pretty dangerous. I mean, that didn't happen all the time. It didn't happen when I was in, but I'd heard of it before. And afterwards, certainly there's been at least 2 times afterwards that I know that those things have gone down. So some of it was vehicle, failed. Some usually it's kind of attributed more to training. There's certain things you got to do to keep them watertight, and if you don't do those things, it can get messy. So,
Right.
but
Yeah. Killian says he does not miss, let's see, don't miss any amphib ops at all.
yeah, yeah. that was what we did. I don't know. I didn't know it any other way. We got to take all our stuff with us. We got to take extra food when we're on the field. And we didn't have to carry all our gear. We just tried it to the vehicle or tucked it away in cubby holes. And so,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. But if you didn't do it every day, like we did, then those guys weren't. And I'll be honest with you, some of my peers may have gone to different levels to mess with people that were uncomfortable in those situations. I did not.
Uh, I've
I
heard those stories.
Yeah, I didn't do that. I treated everybody pretty good. But again, most of the time I had officers with me, so I didn't want to get yelled at for doing stuff like that. So I behaved.
Well,
But
then
not
that's
everybody did. Not everybody did. So it was.
yeah. So, how has your experience in the Marine Corps influenced your perspective on like leadership in the civilian world?
It's it's challenging. Some Most days, I guess some days, is when I was younger, I got out and I I was a little bit older than when I went in. So when I got to college 4 years. So um, the guys that I knew that were 17, 18 when they went in, they were just, it was rigid. They were just, that's the only way. Um, I was a little bit older, so I was able to kind of turn it on and turn it off a little bit. Um, but it was from a leadership or perspective. I had managers that this is what you got to do, and I'm like, okay, that's what we're doing.
Right.
And but there were also times where I had people that would say this is what we're doing, and I'd be like, nope, nope, that's not going to work. We're not going to do that. And I did that when I was in the military too. I mean, it was like, hey, this is how we're going to do these things, and I'm like, no, I think we need to think about that. And sometimes I won out, sometimes I didn't. So, um, it being able to look at people that I've worked for over the years, or that I've had a few times where people have worked for me, but um, it you kind of had to earn it a little bit, I guess. You kind of had the people that I worked for. There were people I'm like, man, I'm not going to do it just because you say so. You
Right.
got to earn my respect a little bit, and and just like in military, it's like there's rank, but there's also you gotta be able to say you've been there and done it too a little bit. So
Right.
yeah,
Which, yeah, that makes perfect sense to me.
yeah.
Um, so let's see. So I'm assuming you're still in contact with some of your military.
Yeah. Um, and when I got out, it was kind of a weird time because it was this is, early 90s, 94. Um, Social media didn't exist like it did now. There
Right.
was, I got out and I immediately went back to school. So I got out in June. I got home in May. I had terminal leave. I got home in May, got out in June, and in August I was back in school. So I immediately got back in, worked on getting my degree, and I kind of that wasn't necessarily bad experiences, but I just kind of closed. In my mind I just kind of closed that chapter a little bit. I'm like done with that. Got out, kind of went back to school, started a family, and just went on. So there was a couple people that I stayed in touch with over the years, but just a few, not very many. And then it really wasn't until, well, when did Facebook take off? Probably 2008,
Yeah.
2009, 707, something like that. Um, I started finding people there, and then that's when a lot of us kind of reconnected, and kind of getting back in touch. I had a couple guys that wanted to come see me, that I went to see, used to have their numbers and would call them, and from time to time, but just very few. Just it didn't really come until later. And then what kind of hit me a little bit was when I started connecting on social media with some of these guys, and I found out that they were still in. They
Oh,
they
wow.
were they were still active. Hey, I'm 2 years away from retirement. I'm this, and I'm looking back. I'm like, that guy did 20 years. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't, I like just not somebody that I would have expected to do that. And I look back at myself and I'm like, God, I wonder, how it would have been different if I would have re-enlisted, if I would have stayed in. There were times of regret, a little bit, not excessive, but because I was successful and I had a good family and there was I had a lot of good things, going on, but it, I look back and there was that, just wondered what happened, all the operations and little wars and little activities that we had over the years. And, um, a lot of those guys that I served with were there for all of those things. And
Right.
there was a little bit of regret in that, that I didn't stick around a little bit, but the last probably 10 years, I guess it's been about that long. Um, some guys that I served with, his dad and some friends were real pro military and supported us and set up a couple like hunting trips down in Texas.
Oh,
So
nice.
so it was, we would go down there and it was just kind of a, open the ranch to us and treated us like kings and just had a great time. And I some of these guys went every year, and the guy that hosted obviously does every year, but I wasn't able to do it for every year until the last probably 4 years, and then I've just gone, and that's my 1 week of I'm going to Texas and we're going to hang out and hunt. And it's not really about hunting as much as it is just hanging out with some guys that serve together and telling stories.
Camaraderie. Hmm.
And that's really what it's about. So, we'll shoot some pigs or some wild goats or sheep or whatever they are the but it's been a lot of fun. It's been very therapeutic and all of them in different places. Um, One of the guys that go was our platoon commander at the time, that goes with us and comes down, and so it's been good to see them and once a year. That's coming up in about 4 months, I guess I go. So it'll
Oh, well, good.
looking forward
Good.
to it. Yeah.
You'll have to share some photos. That'd be pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I will. I'll work on that. I'll work on that for next time. The last time we went down there, it was out in West Texas. I think we were closer to Mexico than we were to Apland. I mean, it was out there it was out there in the brush. I felt like it was in a John Wayne movie. So,
Oh, funny.
uh, but it was great. I mean, it wasn't. Some of the times we went, it was just kind of like a drive around, drink beer, and tell stories. And this time we were out in the brush from like 8 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night. And I mean, it was rough. I'm like, oh boy, it was fun. It physically demanding. And it's like, all right, that's at this point in my life, that's what I needed. I needed a little bit of a kick. So
Yeah.
good times.
So in what way, and you may or may not
Yeah.
believe that your skills and your values that you acquired in the Marine Corps, that they've helped you after your career. Do you believe that to be true, that they have
Uh,
helped you?
oh,
And if
absolutely.
so,
Absolutely.
how do you think that
Well,
they?
so when I went back to, I mean, as early as going back to school, when I got out, I'm like, I was, there's a job in front of me, and I'm going to accomplish it. Whatever task was put in front of me, it nothing is as hard as what I did there. So I expected, set high standards for myself in school to finish to get my degree. Took me, I think it was 2 years, but I really just I could have done it less, but it didn't make sense for me to do it any faster. Um, but I went on. I've had several jobs where I've had to work remote, I guess is the term now. But I was an outside sales guy for 20 years, and nobody told me what time to get up in the morning. No, I wasn't punching a clock. if I had to work until midnight, being up at 2 o'clock in the morning, I did whatever it took to get it done. So, and that all that I think came from the military, training. That it's like it didn't matter what the job was when it was. It's like it's going to be accomplished, whatever we got to do.
Right.
I had one guy,
Right.
the customer, that he worked third shift, and he was the guy that purchased everything, and he's like, I struggled back in emails, and I said, dude, just call me. He goes, but I work from 11 to 7 in the morning. I said, I'll take your call at 3 o'clock in the morning, man. I'll take your call. We'll get
There
it
you
figured.
go.
And I did it because that's what it took to get it done. And that guy became one of my best customers, because whatever he needed, he knew I was going to be there for him. So just
That's a
that,
great quality.
yeah. I mean, just being able to understand. And I see people today every generation's a little bit different, but it's not even an age thing. It's really just a mindset, a mentality that people don't necessarily have the toughness or resolve to get through. Everybody's, if everybody's special, nobody's special, right? You heard that?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I think I was from The Incredibles. I think it was that cartoon movie. But it's like, if everybody's a superhero, then nobody's a superhero.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
and we did what we did to set ourselves apart, but it wasn't, when you think about military guys, they're not the biggest, they're not the toughest, they're not the movies always portray these guys as like these monsters that are, these huge guys that are just muscle bound to whatever. There were guys that were 115 pounds dripping wet that had to eat twice as much as me going through boot camp to put on weight. And, at the end of the day, there were guys that did what I did that couldn't lift a block of track because they weren't
Yeah.
strong. So you get a team aspect of it, that it's like everybody has a strength, everybody has a weakness, and you have to work together. You have to find a way to incorporate everybody in to do the job, whatever it is. If that guy, if you're not strong enough, you're not heavy enough to lift this up, then two of you guys jump on, and the two of you guys weigh the same as what I weigh, and then we'll do that. We'll do it that way. So it's just a
Teamwork.
matter of find a way to accomplish stuff. And I don't know that people necessarily. I think it's difficult for a lot of people that haven't been through military or a structured athletic program. People that are
Right.
like D1 athletes, or not necessarily pro athletes, but college athletes, or even just a high level high school athletes. If you have that kind of dedication that you have to train mentally and physically, that carries forward, whether it's military or other aspects too. So
Yeah. Yeah. Killian says, you got to stay hard.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I got away from it for a while, but I'm getting back. I'm enjoying it. And when I talked to you, a few weeks ago, and had the opportunity to do this, I don't know what I'm going to say. I told my fiance this morning, like, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. I don't know what I'm going to talk about. She's like, really? You're not going to know what to talk about for an hour? I'm like, yeah, never mind. Withdrawn.
Well, and I'm here just to kind of guide you, and we kind of go wherever it is you want to go. So, oh, you still with me there? I had a pop up on my screen. It was like, what
Oh
is
yeah.
that? Um, so it sounds like I'm assuming you didn't have a lot of challenges transitioning from military to civilian life. You went right
No,
in
I I,
school.
I didn't. I didn't, and it's. But I think part of that is where, when I went in, I was a little bit older, and I had some of that college experience already, so it was easy for me to transition back to that. Um, Not everybody has that. So I'm actually trying to. I'm right now. I've been involved in the last few months a lot more with the VA, doing some things, and as far as like job searching things now, I think it's harder for me now than it was when I first got out. and it's not necessarily the military part of it. It's really just the age, just because I'm
Right.
older, and it's, ageism is a real thing for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm working with the VA right now currently to either do some re-education, just try to go back to school and not necessarily go back to college. I don't necessarily want to do that, but just something, just finding a new direction to go. And
Yeah.
they've been pretty helpful with that. And through that, I've been exposed to some guys that are younger, a lot younger than me, that are having those kind of issues, transitioning and kind of going. And so I'm actually kind of actively looking for um, to get a job within the VA organization, the Veterans Affairs Administration. Just part of it really is to give back a little bit, because what I've learned in the last little bit, I'm maybe with I might be able to help somebody else too. So I've had some help over the years, and it may be time for me to kind of give back a little bit and do something.
That's wonderful. That's
Yeah.
really wonderful. And we can certainly use good people in, places like the VA. And, um, it's one thing I think to have never served and be in working there versus somebody who has served and understands some of those issues, just even trying to get certain benefits in general. I mean, I've not served, I don't know, but just the stories that I've heard and some of the issues that people have had.
I've been very fortunate. I live in Murfreesboro. I mean, the VA here has
Mhm.
been very, very good to me. I've heard some stories too, and I've seen I've seen some stuff over the years, and but personally, I've been treated very well, and I want to hopefully help others have that same experience. So we'll see.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why, just having you on today and kind of sharing your story, is to me is always a plus, because others can hear, what's worked for you, what didn't work for you, and they can hear the same from other guests and make a determination for themselves, maybe do a little bit more research on different resources. And so, I appreciate that. Um, and hopefully you'll find your niche
Yeah,
that you're looking
we'll
for.
see. Um, yeah, I'm looking forward to doing something different than what I've been doing the last few years. But it's
Yeah.
that's been good too. But I'm ready to do a change and do something a little bit different,
Yeah.
a little bit more personally rewarding, I guess, than the other. So
So I think that goes into actually, that was a really good segue into my next question for you. So, which was, how do you think the Marine Corps' values, such as honor, courage, commitment, how those have shaped your personal value decision makings in your civilian life?
Um, a big part of it. I mean, it's the Marine Corps birthday's right around the corner, and we all kind of go a little nutty for a few days. That we kind of take over Facebook for a week, I think, or something is what most people say. But
Yep. Yep.
you it integrity and those values, just it means so much. And again, not everybody I served with had them. There were some guys that were, I had one guy that called me when I had just gotten out. I just got out of college, so I'd been out probably less than 4 years, so three to four. So it was in my first house, and he called and said he's like, hey, I'm coming to Chicago. I was gonna come see you, and my eyes just got like, what? No, not this guy. He got in trouble for drugs and all this other stuff. And I was talking to him like, so what have you been up to the last, 5? Well, I got shot twice and other stuff. And I'm like, nope, I'm not bringing you around my family, dude. I just said, stay in the city, get a hotel, see if you can find me. And it was right before I moved. And I'm like, when I moved, I unlisted my phone number, and I haven't had a listed phone number since that time. So not everybody I served with was hoorah, great guy. There was a lot of shitbirds in that mix too. So we held ourselves to a pretty high standard most of the time, and the people that didn't have that same standard, they usually went away pretty quick. So
Yeah.
or we didn't we didn't associate with them. I mean, they were they were kind of a pariah to some degree. It's like, no, you're not. If we're doing training, we're doing operations, we're doing something. There's people that um, that don't get a play. You got to go do something else. They'll put them in an admin role somewhere, and sometimes it's for our safety, and quite honestly, sometimes it's for their safety. So
Yeah,
that's if you know what I'm saying.
I do.
There were people that were like, that guy is not going to make it. We can't have him out there because it'll cause a problem. So he gets to stay in the back and do other things.
Yeah. Well, G23 says thanks for all your service, and just a reminder for everybody out there listening. Of course, this coming Saturday, so a week from yesterday, is Veterans Day, and this coming Friday is the Marine Corps birthday. That's correct.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's pretty exciting. Um, I don't know how many of you out there have heard, but and I don't know, Barry, have you ever heard of Mind Over Land?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so they are a 501c3, and so not for profit, and they actually take veterans from all over the US, and they have well, last year I guess it was like 6 different outings in different areas across the country. And this year, so this coming Friday, actually, Friday through the 12th, they are doing an outing in I guess it'd be Nebo, North Carolina, in the mountains. And so I actually had seen them on Facebook. I saw this and I asked them if it was something that I could post, because I thought it would be a really good thing to put out there for any veterans that were listening. And it's free, and it was for veterans, their families, supporters of veterans. And they'd have like food trucks and such, and then there's trails that you can take your vehicle on. And so I did this little minute 30-second video and just put it out there, and a couple weeks later I get a message to say, hey, um, we saw your video, and are you guys coming? It was like, well, we hadn't planned on it. We don't have a tent and we don't have a camper at this moment. And he's like, well, that's what we do. We provide tents. So, and he said, yeah, we'll put you with, you could little booth for you, and you can talk to some veterans. And I was like, okay, we're there. So that's what we're doing this weekend.
That's
This
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it is open to veterans. So if you know of anybody that likes to get out and into the wilderness, that's basically what it's for, is to get veterans up and out and moving,
Yeah.
so that they're not just you know sitting at home
Yeah.
and in their head. So I'm gonna hopefully get some good video of that, and we'll be sharing that. Um, Also, just a side note for everybody that's here, I'm probably not going to be doing a live show on the 12th. I'm going to go ahead, hopefully, well, depending upon when I get back from the trip in North Carolina, I'm going to go ahead and work up some video and put that out there. But I just didn't want to have a schedule for a guest and not make sure 100% that I was going to be home in time. So, okay, little sidetrack there. Sorry about that, Barry.
Okay.
Um, okay, I'll throw this out here, and if you don't want to answer, you're not going to hurt my feelings. But what are your thoughts on the current state of affairs in terms of military policies? And are there any changes that you'd like to see in support of active service members and veterans?
Um, I think they've made it too much of a social experiment, like much of the rest of our society has, and that's not what it is. And that's the I think they're without like hurting anybody's feelings specifically. We're there to do one thing, make
Yep.
war. make war. That's what we're supposed to do. We'll be prepared to do that, and hopefully not. Hopefully, in the case I was ready. Fortunately, I didn't have to participate in much of
Right.
that. Very much of it, a little bit, but not much. Um, if you're worried about, I mean, there were standards about behavior and things that were acceptable and that weren't acceptable. And if you didn't follow those rules, you went home. You went to the brig for some things, but at the very least, you went home. We
Right.
weren't there to hold your hand and make you sure you felt good about yourself. You had a job to do, and that job at the end of the day was to be prepared to go to war and do what you got to do. That was a guy that was an infantry guy that carried a rifle. That was the guy that did the paperwork. That was an admin guy. Everybody was the same. We all were there for one purpose. And if the way they've allowed this to become a social experiment, it has affected our country's readiness and ability to do what inevitably is going to need to be done again, because it's always going to come back. It always is. We're probably closer now than we have been in the last 30 years to
Yeah. Yeah.
to something big. And with where the military is right now, the way the mentality, what they've done, I'm my confidence isn't there. It's not, and you just got to stop. If you want to go and you want to, it's volunteer. Nobody's getting drafted. This isn't Vietnam. This
Yeah.
is this isn't we're taking everybody. And if your dad's not this, and you're not going to school, if you're not whatever, you don't have a waiver from somebody, you're going.
Right.
And this is 100% voluntary. So if you're going to volunteer to go, these are the rules. And if you don't want to play by those rules, go do something else. That's okay.
Right.
We're not making you go. That's the part of it that frustrates me. It's like you don't get to go play house and do that stuff. That's not what we're here for.
Yeah.
That's my biggest thing. And it's not any one, it just all across the board. Any of that woke stuff
Yep.
does not belong there at all. You can choose to go do something else. If you're going to do what we do, what I did, then you got to do it the way we did it. I mean, that's it. It's
Yeah.
you look at other countries, they're not putting up with this stuff. We're like the only one, that's
Mhm.
tolerating it. And like
That's
it's
really
gonna,
very
it's gonna,
true.
it's going to affects our readiness. It affects the confidence in the troops and the officers and from top to bottom. And it's like, Marine Corps' traditions are run deep. I get now it's Marine Corps birthday, so my social media pages are full of advertisements for Marine Corps swag and all kinds of stuff, and I'm like, and I laugh and I'm like, yeah, I could use one of those. No, I don't need one of those. I don't know, but the traditions run deep, and I think they're diluting the the what it means with some of this stuff.
Yeah.
So you know,
And you make a really valid point in the fact that, those going in, it is all volunteer. So why in the world do those overseeing our military continually change it and soften it? Um,
that's a good question.
I mean, well, and just something like I said that kind of corresponded with what you were saying, and I think that you're absolutely correct because it is a volunteer system, and at least for now, I'm hearing numbers are down significantly in all branches, um, and now is not the time
Yeah.
to
Well,
have
and it,
low
and
numbers.
a lot of it is the people that were going. If 30 years ago, right? So if 30 years ago, if the culture is like it is today, I probably don't join. I I,
Yeah.
I, I don't join. I wouldn't have. I'm sure. Um, because when I went in for a specific reason. I went in, well, a couple things. One of it was where I lived, the benefits for school. I needed that to be able to finish monetarily and mentally. I needed to mature a little bit to do that. So that was part of it. But I didn't, I didn't have to. I went to become a better person. Why did I join the Marine Corps versus the Army?
Right.
Because the Marine Corps was the toughest. Um, I knew it was going to be the hardest, and if I was going to do it, I was going to take the biggest challenge. That was my mentality. That was my thought. I
Right.
I could have gone in the Navy. I could have gone in the Army.
Yeah, you had a
uh,
plethora of
I had choices to go, and I'm glad of the choice that I made. But the only reason I did it is because it was the toughest at the time. And if I look back now, I'm like, I'm not sure if it is. I don't know, but I don't know. They actually redid boot camp, so I will tell you this: you, no other old guy is going to tell you, but I think boot camp today is tougher than when I went through it. It is.
really.
They 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 added a, oh my god, what's it called? I'm I should have prepared. It's not the gauntlet, but there's a thing at the end where you basically, it's like 72 hour
Crucible.
crucible. Thank you. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you
Um,
could even have a crucible then.
we did similar things, but it wasn't. They didn't, not what those guys are doing. It wasn't.
Well,
And I'm confident with the training that I had that I would have been able to do it. I'm not saying I wouldn't be able to do it, but I didn't have to go through the crucible. I didn't have to go through that. And I've talked to guys that younger than me that got out, or their kids, the guys that I served with, the kids that went through it, and they told me, they're like, yeah, that's some nasty stuff. I mean, it's that crucible was no joke. I
yeah.
I could have done it, but that part of it is as hard or harder than when I went through 30 something years. So yeah.
Yeah. And I can't speak obviously for the boot camp in California versus in South Carolina. I can talk a little bit about South Carolina. I know, um, dependent upon the time of year that you're in, you've got the hurricanes and things like that, and that is enough that it will shorten that crucible time down
Yeah.
significantly.
That,
But having them out, because our middle son, he was out there, and his crucible was like just the tail end of a hurricane and a really bad storm. And he I mean, they were out there freezing, shivering in this pouring rain. And but it wasn't as long, because of it, but they made it. And so I know the West Coast, their
there's
weather is fairly consistent.
it's where you're at, higher elevations, it gets a little chilly. Um,
Yep.
and sometimes it gets hotter. If you're out in that desert, it gets hot during the day. Um, we don't have sand fleas like they have. They
Right?
complain
Oh,
about, but we had
those are
rattlesnakes
horrible.
and tarantulas all over the place. So I mean, it was
Yeah.
a few other things. I think they're pretty even for the most part. But I get buddies that were East Coast and West Coast, so we always kind of banter
Give each
back and
other grief.
forth about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's at the end of the day, it's the same training schedule. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, what advice do you have for any individuals who are considering a career in the Marine Corps or the military in general, based on your own experiences and insights as a veteran?
It's one of the things that um, if I had it to do again, I mean, I would. There's some education benefits that you can take advantage while you're in. That I knew a few guys that were doing that then, but you know, treat it like a lot of these guys when they go in, they're young and it's a party, and they're just, there's a lot of I think it's better than it used to be, but there was a lot of, you know, partying to excess at times, and I certainly participated in a fair amount of that myself. But in hindsight, if I wish I would have not done that as much and focused on my training a little bit more. There were some education opportunities there that I could have taken advantage of that would have helped me get promoted faster. And in which case, if I would have done that, I would have I might have stayed around a little bit longer. Um, but it's treat it like it's a gift. I guess that's a good way to put it about it. It took me a while to
Yeah.
get there, but if you are given the privilege to serve for whatever length of time, treat every day like a gift, because it truly is something that you'll never get to experience anywhere in the world ever again. I mean, it's just the people you meet, the experiences you have. That there's it's an amazing thing, and if you do it well, it's the gift that keeps on giving. So it paid for
Yeah.
my college when I got out. Um, Due to some other VA things, I've been able to purchase several homes with VA loans over the years, and now, due to some of my service connected stuff that I got, nothing major, but they're taking care of my health care for the most part. So it's a gift, and treat it as such, because not everybody can do it. Um,
Right.
Not everybody, there's a lot of people that I serve with that didn't make it. And one guy that I know, he served with, he was probably one of the toughest Marines that we knew. We were playing flag football, just playing grab ass football, and he blew his knee out, and 3 months later he was out. And it's like, that guy, if anybody deserved a chance to stick around and stay around, it was him. So it can be through no fault of your own, but if you get a chance to go in and serve, treat every day as a gift and give it your all. Um, and
Yeah.
you'll be rewarded
Yeah. I think those are
till
some
end of days.
great words.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump in here and just say, anybody out there, if you have any questions at all for Barry, why don't you go ahead and get those put in the comments, and I'm sure he'll be happy to get that answered for you. I know Killian was saying West Coast is the best coast. I'm sure that there's others. Let's see. G23 says the East Coast has molehills, not mountains.
Yeah.
uh, it's funny, just kind of, going through these comments, and those were mountains I seen in Heartbreak Ridge.
Yeah.
Jovic too. uh, so yeah, I think I know that when I first met you and we talked about having you come on the show
Yeah.
and what this was all about, I know we talked a little bit about resources. And so you are familiar with Operation Stand Down. Is that
I
correct?
am. Yeah. I didn't do a lot with those. I went to a job fair a couple months ago it was actually at Nissan Stadium in Nashville, and I was just kind of, it came up, and that was one of the people that I talked to. So I really haven't been in contact with them much since. Couple emails, but they were very helpful. One of the guys that I talked to was it sounds like he told me some stories. He helped a lot of people that get jobs. It wasn't much they could do for me at that time,
Mhm.
but they were tremendous in what they were able to help people do. Guys that were basically on the verge of family homeless, and he told me a story about a guy that he got him a job as a maintenance guy in a hotel, and got him to give him a free room, and the guy so they're doing a lot of things for people that may not have all the resources at their
Yeah.
fingertips. And there's a lot of resources out there for people, but if you don't know how to get to them, I think that's a group that can help get people on the right track. I've been fortunate in my location and other aspects, be able to get uh, assistance when I needed it. But not everybody has been in that same situation, and those guys seemed to me like they were very willing to help people kind of get back on the right path. So
Yeah, which is great. And everything I've read about Operation Stand Down, it's again for Middle Tennessee, from state border to state border. So basically, the northern and southern borders of Tennessee, Middle Tennessee, and everything that I've read really makes a lot of sense. Um, and for those veterans living in this general area, I think you're right. It is kind of a good first step. If you don't know where to go for certain things, they can certainly help to point you in the direction that you need to go. Um, so if anybody does have any veterans out there that might need a little bit of help, I did post the link right there. Operation Stand Down. It is osdtn.org. That's for Middle Tennessee here. And also, before I forget, make sure that you like, subscribe, and please share this channel. Also, make a comment when this ends so that we can continue to grow. And when we do hit at 100 subscribers, which is coming up pretty quick, then I am going to be doing a little giveaway. So, have a few things. I have a gift card, and of course, I'd make the tumblers and such. So, I'll have a tumbler um, as well. So be sure to share that with your friends and family. And if anybody has any veterans that would like to come on board with us and have a conversation, we'll talk about whatever it is that you want to talk about. I am. Please feel free to get in touch with me. Um, let's see, what do we got out here in the chats? Um, So Jim says, Barry, thank you again for your service, your time tonight, and congrats and best wishes with your soon to be bride. That is correct.
yes,
Uh,
thank you.
and let's see.
I saw that Killian's, to be fair, was born in a bar. So yes, that is true. I will acknowledge. I did see that one. I will acknowledge that. So yes, that is very true. Yeah. So that tradition runs pretty deep. I'm not saying I wouldn't get it at all. I'm just saying that I may have moderated it a little bit.
Well, that's on you. Now,
Yeah.
this is not for children, so that's on you.
Yeah. But yes, it was founded in a bar. That's true. Yeah. So.
Yes. Um, let's see. Um, anything else? Barry, do you have any kind of other words of wisdom before we close down for the night?
No, I've enjoyed it. This hour and a half flew by. I didn't know how it's going to go, but I had a blast, and I'll do it again if you need somebody that and next time we'll go to a different direction. Whatever topic you want to cover, I'll be glad to go. I enjoy.
Well,
I
I
thoroughly
appreciate,
enjoy it.
yeah, I really appreciate you coming on and, just kind of giving your insight into your story and letting people know, kind of everybody's different. Everybody's story is different. And it's great to be able to hear those differences. Because again, there's somebody just like you having similar experiences. They might not have seen combat or any of that, but still need to know how to navigate things. And you know, they've had people that they have lost
Yeah.
in to combat or something.
I've lost a few guys over the years, and one fairly recently actually wasn't it was um, just an accident, just something that happened. So I mean, there's health and other stuff that people are dropping. So I'm fortunate to be here and tell my tale and everybody else's that I knew as well. So.
Yeah. And Jason Hegstrom, my husband, says, thank you, Barry. We appreciate your service. And we most definitely do. I appreciate you coming on and if you want to hang tight for just a minute,
Yep.
and we'll go ahead and end the show, and I will meet you backstage. So, all right, everybody. Oh, Angry Sarge, again, thank you for coming on, and I appreciate you subscribing as well. Angry Sarge says he appreciates your service.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Okay, everybody. Well, y'all have a wonderful night. And we will be sending out some videos, as I said, over the weekend, this coming weekend for Veterans Day. So enjoy the long holiday weekend and remember what it's all about. Everybody have a great night.